So we are going live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening and warm welcome to the third webinar in the leadership series. This program is organized jointly by Indian Orthopedic Association, Pediatric Orthopedic Society of India, and Indian Academy of Cerebral Palsy. I am Dr. Dhiren Ganjwala, the President of Pediatric Orthopedic Society of India, along with my colleague Dr. Rujuta Mehta from Mumbai, will host this session. The first question, why do we need such leadership program? If we look around, we realize that our world has a pressing need for good leaders and the leaders who does good for the society. This demand is there in all the fields at all the level. And to satisfy this need, we initiated this leadership series. The theme of today's session is how to convert challenges into opportunity. In our lives, challenges, obstacles, difficulty are inevitable. But to remain stable in such situation and think positively is an art, and we shall learn from the experienced leaders how to do it effectively. Today we have three great speakers from the medical field, and all of them are from the different medical field. We have Dr. Mini Bodhanwala. She's the CEO of Wadia Children Hospital and Maternity Hospital. We have Dr. Venkatesh Prajna, who is an ophthalmologist at Arvind Eye Hospital, Madurai. And we have Dr. Lakdawala, who is very famous for obesity surgery. Now I request Dr. Rujuta Mehta to introduce our faculty formally and to start the session. Over to you, Rujuta. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dhiren Bhai. On behalf of all three associations, I am absolutely delighted to be participating in today's webinar. More so because the people who are speaking today are people who I have witnessed personally bringing about a transformational change, bringing about a dynamic angle to places which were perhaps thought as once might shut down. And some people who actually brought about a dynamic change in a field which was not explored. And having known both of them personally as a privilege, Mini Madam and Mufazzal and Dr. Prajna, is really, really a humbling experience today. So without much further ado, I will lay the ground rules. Dr. Dhiren Bhai and me are moderating, so we will request the audience to send in your questions to either 98210247111 on WhatsApp or on 982502560. I repeat, 98210247111 or 982502560. We have our own queries, and I'm sure their journeys will inspire you to ask more and more questions. So let me formally introduce Mini Magic, as I have known her personally. Dr. Mini Bodhanwala is the CEO of Navrojji Wadia and Baijar Wadia hospitals. She has received more than 80 plus awards in her career and still counting for various categories in healthcare organizations. Dr. Mini played a very, very instrumental role in bringing a positive transformation at Wadia hospitals, showing compassion towards the underprivileged women and children of our nation. She's also the advisor and chairman of Wadia Group for CSR activities to Impact India Foundation, to Modern Education Society, which operates 7 colleges in Mumbai and Pune, to Britannia Nutrition Foundation and Sir Nes Wadia Foundation, to cite a few. And she is presently the caretaker of Bombay Dyeing Manufacturing Limited in a big advisory role. Mini Madam played a major role in relief and rehabilitation programs during the COVID-19 pandemic, something which struck us very, very badly. And she really taught all of us how to think differently when it comes to such challenging situations. With Dr. Mini Bodhanwala's efforts, our hospital now proudly hosts the largest NICU in the country with 155 beds and 34 pediatric services and more. We are adding more. She has established pediatric cardiology, complex pediatric surgeries and pediatric orthopedic surgeries, neurology, neurosurgery, nephrology, hemato-oncology, bone marrow transplant, just to name a few, and it keeps growing. Dr. Bodhanwala has contributed in a very, very strong way for development of public health in Maharashtra, and she's initiated several projects approved by the Government of India. A vision of engaging the community together and helping children who suffer from cardiac diseases with the Little Hearts Marathon was a very big turnaround event in the history of the hospital. And she also played a key role in establishing several good foundations for UNDP, UNICEF, and WHO, and Hospital on Wheels, to name a few. There is such an exhaustive list of achievements of Mini Madam. I'm sure I wouldn't be able to complete all of them. So without much ado, I give you, ladies and gentlemen, the mini magic, and for you yourself to witness how the change came about. Over to you, Mini Madam. Can we please share your screen?
Can you hear? Are you able to hear?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So a very good evening to all of you, and a special thanks to Dr. Dhiren Bhai and Dr. Rujuta for giving me this opportunity to address everybody. I think, as we all know who leaders are, leadership is nothing but it's just an influence you create. It's nothing more or nothing less, I should tell you. Leadership is also not a cakewalk. It comes with a lot of challenges, but at the same time, it teaches you how to get over those challenges and make them into a success. And those are some of the stepping stones which I learned in my journey of leadership. Basically, I'm a dental surgeon, as you all know, and I went into administration and into finance and also into public health. Today, I'm here to discuss with you my journey of Wadia hospitals. As an example, I'm taking the Children's Hospital, which we all know that Baijarbai Wadia Hospital for Children is the largest and the first pediatric hospital established and one of the PP models, and it was established in 1929. Currently, we are having, as Rujuta said, 525 beds, and we have more than 100 pediatric specialists, and we are providing care to more than 2 lakh patients on an outpatient basis and more than 30,000 on an inpatient annually. Whereas the Nauroji Wadia is a maternity hospital. Basically, these hospitals are mother and child care hospitals, and Nauroji Wadia is a 400-bed hospital. When I joined these hospitals, way around in 2012, I would just like to bring to your notice that both these hospitals were functioning from one bed. There was a baby abduction, and immediately after the baby abduction, within a week, I was made to join these hospitals on a war footing to streamline the situation in these hospitals. So the challenges when I took over, as I told you, in 2012, both the hospitals were operating from one location, had one structure because it was a damaged structure of BJ. We had to shift in 2009. And due to a grade 2 heritage structure category, we were not getting heritage permission even to repair the hospital, safety of the patients, and also, the employees of the hospital were agitated because of lack of space of working from one hospital together. The other was improving the healthcare facilities, scope of the services, getting funding, because always these hospitals depend on MCGM as well as government. And till today also the same challenge exists. Yes, but today also we are in a more comfortable situation. When I entered the hospital, the CFO would ring up every month before the salary and he would say, ma'am, there's no money, there's no money. It took me a while to understand the operations of the hospital and change the operations of these hospitals. The hospital was also struggling, as I told you, with a lack of fund. They were understaffed, and not only understaffed, there were no equipments. As I remember when I joined, there was no proper NICU. The NICU was just around 19 beds with only oxygen lines, and I think only one ventilator working. And I would say that, that was a difficult situation to handle when I joined the hospital, and everybody would say, oh, we have an NICU, we have an NICU. And I would think to myself, do you call this an NICU? Nobody would call it an NICU. I had at that time taken up certain, after reviewing the situation, because it took me more than a month to review this situation. Because of the baby abduction, first we had to deal with that and then review the ground situation. We had to stabilize that situation. Then I had to frame my immediate goals, which was shifting Baijarbai Hospital to the original premises, getting funding, approvals from Heritage Committee, streamlining the grants from the government partners, and also the vendor payments, salaries, streamlining the hospital operations. Whereas my long-term goals were ensuring affordability, safety for the patients, improving the healthcare facilities, scope of services, managing a positive change in the staff, sustainability, improve PR. When I joined this hospital, and the first day, my head told me, please go and meet the employees. Should I come with you to meet the employees? I said, no, I don't need anybody to come with me. I'm going alone for the meeting with the employees. And yes, I had all the union heads charging on me. But I mean, I had a situation where I was strong enough, and I had to tell them that the way you talk to me, I'm going to talk to you the same way. So be careful. They told me, no, within 6 months, you will leave the hospital. I said, I'm here to stay. I'm not here to leave the hospital. You can do anything. Perhaps you may leave the hospital, but I will not be leaving the hospital. So I had my mindset. I had everything in line. The first day itself, as soon as I saw the behavior of the employees. So my strategies and my immediate goals were program for engaging companies for funding CSR activities for infrastructure and state-of-the-art regular follow-ups for our funds, and ensuring quality and safety performing corrective preventive actions necessary through regular audits. My other immediate goals were increasing the revenue, recruitments, trainings, and development. I found that the staff also needed a lot of training, because I found they were not aware with the current systems which are functioning in today's world. Efficient supply chain management with vendor management, evaluation, and negotiations at the best. Asset-light model is what I believed would be an effective model because of the lack of funds. And as you see today, though we may not have the funds, but yes, we have the best of the services and the best of the super specialty equipments are with us. And I think the best of the doctors are with us. And I should salute all the doctors for standing by these hospitals with whatever we have. The long-term goals were achieving accreditation for the hospital, addition of scopes in a well-planned manner in order to accommodate the existing structure, generate the additional revenue, like what we did for the bone marrow, as well as the liver transplant, which we are in the process of going ahead with our first patient, the cardiac surgery. We also had to bring about the awareness of these scopes through certain models, because we could not go in for advertising because we were a trust hospital and we had some restraints with government as well as MCGM. Awareness of these scopes. The strategies were implementation. There were no SOPs on ground. Literally, we had to make the SOPs, associate ourselves with various companies, establish partnership with renowned organizations like UNICEF and all. There was a time when UNICEF and other organizations, reputed organizations, seeing to the reputation of Wadia, would not enter. But yes, today we have them as our partners, and we are very thankful to our team which works with them. The achievements are, it took a great deal of strategic planning, innovation, hard work, and patience to bring around this glory of the hospital. First of all, we had to motivate our staff to do the changes. And once our staff got motivated and started working, there was no end, no stopping, as you can see of today. Today, the hospital, as we see, caters to more than 3 lakh patients. Today, we have got 525 beds. We have all the best doctor, nurses with the highest education. We have also vocational courses which are running with us. And the hospital is a center for pediatric excellence in pediatric cardiology, Our other achievements are in the field of neurology, as well as neurosurgery, hemato-oncology, bone marrow transplant, liver transplant, and renal transplants. The management was prompt, proactive enough to get the required equipment and equip each department, as well as equip our employees and doctors with the required trainings. Today, we have the largest NICU in the world, which is 155 beds. And yes, we have also a success of treating children weighing 400 grams at birth. What else would you want? We also have a nodal center in Clubfoot. We are the only in Maharashtra. And also, as I told you, the UNICEF for severe acute malnutrition. The hospitals have conducted various camps, and yes, today it's on a large scale going on. We also have centers for tuberculosis, HIV, which are undertaken. We have a cath lab. We have all the diagnostic facilities which a person could ask for. We have also, to top it, received accreditation from the national board. We also have NABL, as well as we have the ethics committee, as well as, yes, we are pursuing, and we may be the first hospital in India to pursue the Baldrige Framework of Excellence, which is one of its kind in India, which goes beyond accreditation. Our other achievements are in the COVID pandemic, yes, with a very dedicated team of ours, right from the administration to the labor staff. We have handled a lot, and we were the first to diagnose the multi-system inflammatory syndrome. Thank you. I would like to play a video, but before I play the video, I would just like to point out a few things to you. Yes, why I was able to achieve these in this hospital was because of my passion. I knew what I wanted to achieve. I was innovative. You need to have proper integrity, honesty. You need to be an active listener. You need to have self-confidence. You need to be a visionary. And the best part of it is you need to have a very strong communication system. Your communication system with all your team members is what is required, just not your team members, but also with the environment in which you are, as well as your patients. So those are some of the things. The other part, which we are something different, is we have a process of delegation. We delegate our roles and we empower our teams. We look out for, who is the best in doing what is the skill they have, and empower them, and, we motivate them to move forward. So, I mean, these are some of the things which we have been taking on in these hospitals, and there is a resilience always there for responding to disruptive changes also, as well as you will see that not only me, but it goes down and it percolates down to the team, that every person in the team shows an empathy and the craving for learning. So the more you learn, the more you achieve. Now, I would like to just show you a small video, because even till today, I'm continuing with certain courses at Harvard where I'm succeeding. So I would just like to show you a small video of this hospital.
The health of the child is the power of the nation. Carrying forward for more than 9 decades the philanthropic legacy of the Wadia family in providing quality medical care in a comfortable and convenient environment, the Baijarbai Wadia Hospital for Children, located in the heart of Mumbai in India, brings good health and peace to thousands of patients every day. Believing strongly in the fact that quality healthcare should not be restricted to only certain sections of the society, the hospital offers state-of-the-art and advanced services for neonatal and pediatric care at affordable costs to all sections of the society, and sees patients from both India and abroad for medical tourism. Built during a time when children were still considered miniature adults, Wadia Children's is the first dedicated pediatric hospital to be established in India. The generosity and great vision of Sir Nes Wadia and Sir Kasra Wadia will continue to benefit millions in the future as well. Wadia Children's aims to provide healthcare services at par with international standards through preventive, curative, intensive, and rehabilitative methods. We at Wadia Children's Hospital believe in patient first, and we also believe that all kids deserve to be happy, healthy, and safe. To meet the ever-increasing demand for pediatric care, the hospital has undergone a transformation in 2017 with further enhancement of its scope of services to include more than 30 branches in pediatrics and also an increase in the number of patient beds to 525, which caters to more than 13,000 patients annually as inpatients and more than 1 lakh outpatients. In an environment that does its best to keep the spirits of children and the parents high with natural surroundings and brightly painted facilities with their favorite cartoon characters, the children are treated for a wide spectrum of rare and complex conditions at this hospital. With tender care by the staff and each doctor taking a personal interest in every child's health and well-being, the hospital sees its responsibility as much more than just medical treatment. Wadia Children's, being a tertiary care center, welcomes each and every sick child for therapy irrespective of their socioeconomic strata. The inpatient facility at this hospital comprises of wards, the private rooms, pediatric intensive care units, neonatal intensive care units, and cardiac unit. With 200 beds in the neonatal intensive care unit, Baijarbai Wadia Hospital for Children proudly hosts the largest NICU in India. The NICU has successfully treated babies weighing even less than 650 grams at admission. Neonates with all types of medical and surgical diseases and defects are admitted to the NICU at Wadia Children's. With a success rate of 100% for over 200 surgeries conducted in a short span of 6 months, the recently established cardiac center at Wadia Children's comprises of state-of-the-art infrastructure. The dialysis center at the hospital is also equipped with 6 dialysis machines and is the only center offering a 0-day dialysis in the whole of India. This hospital is also a dedicated center for clubfoot in Maharashtra. The hemato-oncology department of the hospital treats more than 100 patients daily on a day care basis for chemotherapy and other blood disorders. Wadia Children's is the only hospital in Western India where 3 complex congenital twins have been operated upon successfully and are now leading a healthy life. All patient care services at Wadia Children's are supported by technologically advanced diagnostic and supportive services that includes radiology, pathology, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, blood bank, nutrition, and dietetics. The hospital also has a dedicated clinic for children suffering from multiple disabilities and vision impairment. For its excellence in pediatric services, the Wadia Children's Hospital has received more than 50 prestigious awards and accreditations from all over the world. Wadia Children's offers rehabilitation and family-focused methods for promoting a healthy environment for the child and strives to prevent numerous childhood diseases. In its endeavor to promote healthy lifestyle in children and support its cardiac program, the hospital organizes the Little Hearts Marathon each year where thousands of healthy children participate. And this event has been a grand success since its inception in 2014. The contribution through the marathon has saved over 200 babies with cardiac problems so far. As a healthcare organization, the hospital is recognized for having the most satisfied patients with the best possible clinical outcomes. Baijarbai Vadia Hospital for Children certainly creates a positive impact on the healthcare of children in India, helping children live a healthy life.
केलीच नाही होती माझे डॉक्टर आम्हाला मालूम नाही होता आमची परिस्थिती पहिली गरिबी होती हा माझा बाळ बसत पण नाही होतं जेवण पण नाही करत होतं हातपाय पण नाही धरत होता कंबर पण नाही धरत होता मग इथं 2013 पर्यंत आणताना माझा बाळ एकटं जेवतो एकटं बसतं एकटं खरकतं
मतलब I am happy.
Yes, I was here for almost 47 days and they gave her to me in a really, like healthy, and I was sent back home. And I'm really happy today that, she's doing well, and they too are very glad that she's doing well.
Taken here for the first time, she was in a very serious condition. She was nutritionally depleted and she was very serious. And we had admitted here for almost 1.5 months. And the improvement treatment and everything was very good. And she had shown a very good improvement.
I was born here, so that was always my first choice. Right from the security as well, at Baijarbai Vadia, everybody, is there at place. But after my son being born here, I probably think that my grandson and everybody needs to be born here. The structure of the building, to the cleanliness that is there, to everything you say, even the rooms, even the toilets, that's the most important thing. That confidence that this structure carries for a lot of parents, that hope that it carries is tremendous, and they are keeping it up to the task. Thank you very much Baijarbai Vadia for keeping my wife and keeping my son fit, fine, happy. I am very happy. I will definitely make sure that my great grandson and my grandsons are born here. That legacy now needs to be created and continued.
Well, bravo is, I can certainly say, and every time we see this, we just feel a surge of pride in our chest. So, ma'am, I think let's begin the interaction, and that's what, we want to really derive the wisdom out of what you've created. Let me ask the first question to you this way, that what are the 3 key attributes you think that a leader should have, the 3 most important things that a leader should have when facing a challenge?
I think the leader should have, an insight how you can handle the challenge. You should know the complexity. You should be self-confident in handling the challenge. And you should know that, yes, you're going to get over it and you're going to win it. So these are the main attributes which I think a leader should have.
So is there a process, ma'am, that you follow, something like a SWOT, strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats analysis when dealing with a challenge?
See, supposing you have a challenge which just crops up, as I told you, it could be like a union challenge or something. Yes, something is brewing, you have a plan. So that type does not have a SWOT. It depends on the type of challenge. Yes, but in the other areas, there's always a SWOT. And there's always a pre-thinking of what you have to do, because you are aware that this situation is going to come, the situation is going to happen. As you know, you are well aware in Vadia, we are with lack of funds. How do you think today, still with the lack of funds, you are running a hospital, you have become semi-sustainable? Yes, you don't need too much of the funds, but yes, you do need a part of it. And how do you think you are able to get all the equipment, all the services, all under one roof and the best of faculty? So as an example, this is what I can tell you.
Okay, so that is so nice to know. Dhiren bhai, any thing that you want to say at this stage?
Yeah, madam, like you said that in the beginning of your career at the hospital, when you took over, the hospital was in a very bad shape, and there was a union problem. So probably it was the beginning of your career, and at that point to have a strength, the internal strength or the confidence is very difficult. So what actually gave you the strength at that particular time? It was your upbringing, it was your past experience. What actually gave you the strength?
This was not my first administrative role. I had done previous administrative roles, but yes, this was different, and I had the self-confidence because we had two unions and two communist unions, which are known as very strong unions. And this was the first time I was handling a union in Maharashtra. Otherwise, I had handled unions in railways. So it was not that I was not used to handling unions, but I knew how to put them on the ground and pin them down. And yes, today, cheers, we are having it as a peaceful situation. Yes, in the middle, 2 years back, again, they had become very active, but we are able to control it and no damage. And you can say that no work is hampered of patient care. So that is what you require. You can keep fighting. That's something different, but nothing should happen to any patient, employee or visitor, which was our main concern. Until today, it's our main concern.
So, madam, when you say, you kind of said you have to keep fighting. So I think that is one very, very important key thing that a leader needs to have, that to have the will to keep going on. So what I want to ask you is, how do you sustain that effort which is required to turn a challenge into an opportunity?
See, you have to keep motivating yourself. Yes, this is the situation. You will be able to win over it. And as per my experience and my self-confidence, I'm able to win over it because I have a wonderful team with me. I have a team right from the down to the top. And yes, as you are very well aware, I have now delegated most of the responsibilities to the team under me. I have selected a core committee, a core group, and I'm delegating and empowering them. So that is my plus point at present.
And what is the potential means? Is there, how do you assess? I mean, I'm sure this is like, I'm trying to, get into your mind and find out, how do you assess the potential of opportunity? Everyone recognizes an opportunity, but I think it's only some who can assess the true potential of it. So how do you do that?
See, when you go on rounds every day, this is something which you have to keep your third eye open. And that is very important. You see the way people are behaving. You see the way departments are functioning. You see the need, what is needed at that point of time. Register it. Try and do an analysis yourself. Yes, this is what we require, this is what is needed. This person has the traits to do certain things, so you can use that person in that area. So this is how we move around.
Okay, so I think that's important to decide where and how what is needed. And then obviously there is something which is when you have multiple things to attend to, when you have diverse departments and diverse people to deal with, how do you decide priorities?
The priority is what is needed at this point of time. And yes, everybody's need is a priority and everybody's needs are handled. But
do you make a sort of a short-term list and a long-term list, or?
No, I don't make a short-term list. I don't make a long-term list. I try to see that all gets solved. At the same time, you are a witness to many of our departments, many new people coming in with us, and many new things happening. So if I start, just prioritizing that, no, today I will do only this, I may not succeed in that, and it may be left out, and the other parts may suffer. So I don't want any part suffering. Take all as a priority. Just plan how you can get one by one or all together and start functioning. And you have to give these plans to the teams who are below you and get your plans right from top to down implemented. Today, if you see, if we need a department, we need something. Yes, today the whole hospital comes together. Any department like any department comes and helps the other department, whether it is manpower, equipment, or anything. So that is the plus point which we have been able to motivate everybody in Wadia Hospital.
And the last question from my side, because I think that's more in relationship to the future that we are going to now look at. Self-sustenance versus growth, tremendous growth and expansion. Which do you think is more difficult, and how should one be behaving in both situations? And then we'll hand over to Dhiren Bhai, because I'm sure he's really having a lot of questions to ask you.
Both go hand in hand. We cannot look at one without the other. Growth can happen, but at the same time, self-sustainability also is happening. As you are aware, we are on a journey of self-sustainability and growth, and we are seeing parallelly both happening. And yes, as I said, the team is very important who you have with you to take these dreams of yours to its, heights what you want, because your dreams are your team's dreams.
Very, very well said, ma'am. Yes, Dhiren Bhai.
Yeah, madam, like the theme of today's session is to convert difficulties or obstacles into opportunities. So from your vast experience, can you give us one example where you have really turned the difficult situation into an opportunity?
I have converted many difficult situations into opportunities. The most difficult situation when I joined this hospital was to keep it live and running. So you can see the gates were closing when I joined, dilapidated structure, nothing over there. I could see only cobwebs. And I should say that people used to come to my room at 5 o'clock. Come on, it's time to go home. Please go home. And I need to shut the hospital and go. So from that situation to what you are seeing is a complete different scenario. So that was the biggest challenge I had.
And Dhiren Bhai, if you may allow me just one more last interjection. The COVID challenge actually overwhelmed all of us. I mean, I personally would vouch for it that for about 2 to 3 months, I think none of us knew how to find our own feet. And that is the time when I really saw you keeping yourself completely calm and instead utilize that time to look for future projections. So that one question is still unanswered in my mind as to what made you so positive in a situation where the whole world was crumbling down.
Rujuta, I think in most of the situations in the hospital and even now, whatever the situation may be, I am very calm. And even if I have any issue which I need to deal at my level, I do not air that out to my team. I just tell my team, you have to concentrate on patient care and your work, and the remaining, I am sitting here to take control. And I used to tell all my team members that please do not, have any fear of any sort. Go ahead, I'm behind you all. So I have always been backing up my people.
Dhiren Bhai, yours.
Yeah, madam, if you have a time, then I would like to ask about like your failures. I am sure that all successful leaders have some failure at some point in the life. So can you elaborate something on your failure? I know that it's not really like a proud moment to tell us about failure, but if you can be open and tell us about your unsuccessful attempt, then we would be very happy to learn about something from that.
My failure was when I did not get a seat into MBBS and I got a seat into my dental. I wanted to become a cardiologist basically. And that was one of the failures in my life. Yeah. And the second failure when you fail and you think you should get frustrated is when you take an administrator's degree and you feel when you go for a job interview, the person finds that, oh, because you are a lady, will a lady be able to handle this or not? And let me tell you that when I went for this interview of mine, I was interviewed, by the way, for 4 hours. For this hospital, I was interviewed for 4 hours. And the same question kept banging on me that, you are a lady, You have not dealt with a semi-government organization. Will you be able to deal with this? That was one of the times. And then when, I felt that, no, I'm not going to get this. And then I got it. That's it. So it was a failure, as well as, you felt frustrated at that time that, oh, because of your sex, you are, being asked so much and questioned so much.
Yeah,
Wow,
but
I mean,
you were able to make everyone realize that it's not the gender which is important, it's the capability of a person which is important, and that counts at the end of the day.
Yeah,
So,
and I would also say, Dhiren bhai, that don't think women power is less, or rather they cannot do. When they can manage a home, they can manage anything.
correct.
I fully agree with you, and we have a very live example in our association, Rujuta.
Yeah.
True, very true.
Yeah.
Very true. So Mao, I think it has been really amazing to really have a sneak peek into the boss's mind, and I think I've thoroughly enjoyed the presentation as well as the film. And we know that Madam has several other commitments even now at this hour. So we are with a heavy heart okay to let you go. But I promise you, ye dil mange more, and we will do something much more in future. And Dhiren bhai, I would urge you to give a vote of thanks to Madam on behalf of all three associations, and then we move on to our next talk.
Yeah, thank you, Madam. Like from Indian Orthopedic Association, from Pediatric Orthopedic Society of India, and Indian Academy of Cerebral Palsy, I would like to thank from bottom of our heart that your presence, your message has really give us a good idea about what leadership is. And we really need to inculcate all these qualities which you enumerate in your lecture. And definitely, if we try to develop and build these skills, then probably we will be a better leader in future. So thank you once again for sharing your insight with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhiren bhai. Thank you, Dr. Rujuta.
We can move on to the part 2.
Dr. Mufasal Lakrawala with us, so we can take his talk first, and then we will go to the Dr. Pradna's last.
All right. So on behalf of the Indian Academy of Cerebral Palsy, Indian Orthopedic Association, and the Pediatric Orthopedic Society of India, Dr. Mufi is no stranger to POSI because he was one of our keynote speakers for the spouses program for the Silver Jubilee POSICon, and certainly no stranger to anybody in Bombay who has especially heard about how much he has done for the COVID pandemic. But being a close friend and always a pleasure to interact with him, I think I will take this opportunity to personally thank him for all the work that he's done during the COVID pandemic, and at the same time take the opportunity to formally introduce him. Dr. Lakdawala is a laparoscopic GI and bariatric surgeon. He ventured into this field about 20 years back when there was hardly anybody in the city of Bombay really doing it. And at present, he serves as the Director of Surgery, Department of General and Minimal Access Surgical Sciences at the Sir H.N. Reliance Foundation and Research Center. He has conducted more than 50,000 laparoscopic surgeries in India and internationally. For his remarkable achievements over the years, Dr. Lakdawala has been honored with several awards and accolades. Some of those notable ones include the World Educator Award by IFSO in 2019, the Best Surgeon World Award by American Society for Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery in 2019. In the wake of the COVID crisis, Dr. Lakdawala volunteered his time, skills, and services as an advisor to the MCGM. He went about actually being on the field himself for 9 months at a stretch when he had a baby to be welcomed into the family, and yet he chose to serve the nation instead. And he and his team of 25 healthcare professionals delivered quality care and treatment to over 10,000 COVID positive patients at the NSCI with complete state-of-the-art facilities. And he still continues as a frontline worker and has been giving his advisor services to the government of Maharashtra and the city of Mumbai. And he is also very, very blessed in terms of being one of the most successful surgeons for chronic obesity patients. And he has strived selflessly throughout his life. Besides being a fantastic cricket player, absolutely optimistic human being, all the while, there's nothing more than I can say and hold you myself between you and him. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Dr. Mufazzal Laftawala to share his leadership journey with us.
Thank you, Ruju. I can afford to call her Ruju because Ruju was someone I kept troubling, but the great Dr. Rujuta Mehta, who's become this top-notch orthopedic surgeon. Well, let me start by sharing my slide, and here, I hope you can see it. Well, thank you firstly for this opportunity to be here and to speak to you guys. And my journey has been quite strange, like for most other things. Um, for me, medicine is passion. It was cricket once upon a time, and then it became medicine. So when it's your passion, I believe that very little do you kind of can go wrong, right? And then I was when the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, declared the country lockdown on the 24th of March 2020. I was sitting at home and thinking, oh my God, where will my next patient come from? And then my son said, let's play football. And I was playing a lot of football with him. But that is what I was doing. But that calling, inner calling was, this is the time to put your hand up and step out, because this is a journey that this chance is not going to come back again in your life. I don't know whether I will probably see another pandemic in my lifestyle. And that's why this Mary Oliver is saying that, tell me what you want to do with your one wild and precious life. That brings me here to kind of tell you that that is how my journey started. That is how I spent 6 months of my life completely with my N95 mask. And to tell you honestly, this N95 mask has probably protected me. And so far, touch wood, I have not ever contracted the virus, despite being around more than 10,000 odd people, intubating them, my shield falling off in front of them. And not until around 6 months back did I get my first dose of my vaccine. So it's been a great journey, but it's been a lot of learning as well. So I believe that the Teacher of the Year award has to go to COVID-19. All right. It has taught us all how to relive life, how to get back to simplicity, how to get back to spirituality. For all of us who believe that we had to be on a plane every other week, or that the world would not learn if I was not on that plane teaching the rest of the world, it's a crash landing to reality. And all of us have been brought down to our knees to say, the world's still running, people are still managing with Zoom or without, managing to teach people and stuff like that. So this is the time to spend with your family, with your loved ones. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I probably spent this time only away from my loved ones. So I want to put out that I'm a surgeon. I had almost little or no knowledge about the coronavirus when it first started in Wuhan in China in 2019. I actually have friends, very close friends in China, because a lot of the surgeons, I am an honorary surgeon to the Chinese National Society. And I tried to send them N95 masks at that point of time because they were really struggling. I realized that India had stopped export of N95 masks to China. So then I tried to send them through Dubai. I was operating in Dubai and I took these masks there. It was around 500 masks, which I wanted to send out of Dubai. And when I went to Dubai, I realized that just a day prior, Dubai had stopped export of these masks and were allowing only 2 masks to get out. So then how do I do? Then I spoke to another friend in Oman, and finally I managed to send it from Oman. Little did I know that very soon this would come knocking on our very own shores, and I would be the one who would be buying these masks at some insane rate in the beginning when I started this journey. Like I said, the knowledge base of this virus is so little that we in India have tried everything from sunlight to steam to cow dung to yoga to everything. And we do know that the only person who's won in this journey is COVID, and all of us have looked stupid. The ICMR, the CSIR, the WHO, all have given out diktats, which all, if you go to see some of the early advices from these esteemed bodies with very, very respected people on these bodies, you will realize that most of these advices you would laugh at today in the day of the vaccine and various other things. So little was known. The only people who really knew something was the people who stepped out and treated these patients themselves. We did little but to herd away our migrants. Stigmatization of this virus was huge. And that is what I want to tell you all, that please don't stigmatize, irrespective of whatever happens. I stepped into this battle for two main reasons. One was to drive away the fear from people. I had one old lady who was around 70 years of age. And when she was diagnosed as COVID positive with diabetes, the sirens blazed, the BMC ambulances went in, got her, despite her not agreeing to come, they got her and plumped her into NSCI. And the first thing I did is I wore my PPE, I went and hugged her. And I said, "Ai mitula gari patona." And that, I think, kind of set the tone for the rest of my 8 or 9 months that I spent in the COVID war. I think stigmatization killed more people during this pandemic than the actual disease itself and the fear of dying of this disease. So from being very, very happy to being this surgeon in scrubs, I got an opportunity. And they say that opportunity doesn't always come gift wrap. So I stopped practicing. For 9 months, I did not do one single surgery. I gave up all surgery, not a planned thing, but it happened as it came along. And I completely immersed myself into COVID. And that is how I looked. Every single day I would dress up. In the beginning, I would be in these clothes for at least 9 to 10 hours. And that time, we looked like almost like warriors going out to fight some kind of a war. Well, it also pays to unbelong. And today I am speaking to you because I was one of the guys who stood out and probably said that this virus is here. We didn't know very much about the virus in March 2020. We didn't know who would live, who would die. Today, with a recovery rate of 96% and above in India, we all have enough of knowledge about the coronavirus. We all do know you take monoclonal antibodies, you take vaccines, and you'll be fine. But back then, you were one who was out of the crowd. People were very scared to come out. Even our own fraternity, there were lots of people. I asked a lot of my colleagues, please come out and help. And every time, albeit I have no grudges, but albeit someone gave a new excuse for not stepping out at that point of time. And sometimes I felt defeated. Sometimes I felt that strengthened my resolve, that I had to do something to fight this. And that's how I contributed to G South Out, which was the first red hot zone of India, became my journey for the next 9 months. Well, they say that handling pressure is an art that we have to learn. If you want to succeed in life, you have to learn how to handle pressure. And this is something I put out because when the storm comes in, and if you say that you are ready and waiting for it, I think there's very little that the storm can do to fight you. And that's my journey. Like Ruju said, I had 24 student nurses because I could not have nurses. And I had 7 doctors to start with me. There was 1 surgeon and the rest, 1 intern, and the rest were physiotherapists. And everyone came and said, "Sir, we are just physiotherapists, occupational therapists. Can we help?" And I said, yes, because beggars cannot be choosers. I don't know whether how many of you all know a lion, Dr. Rujuta Mehta, but he was very, very kind to provide these nurses to me. And his nursing institute, nursing teaching college told me, Mufi, there's a batch of 24 girls who I can lend to you for, but they are all students, they're not qualified nurses. I said, so they're most welcome in this journey. And for the first at least week or so, I remember all these girls were scared. I had promised all their parents that if anyone were to get the virus, it would be me first and them next. And I would go in every single day with them. Some of them have fainted with the PPE because that time we had these PPEs, which were from Taiwan, which were very, very high grade. Some of them have thrown up in their masks and we've had to bring them out. But all in all this journey, I must thank all these brave young girls who probably have saved Mumbai, because in those early days, this was the largest facility. We were treating 590 patients at that point of time at NSCI. And then, of course, along the journey, I had Dr. Neeta Varti and various senior doctors who joined me into this battle, and they all felt much, much elated having served the country. But also knowing that I had a very small team. So if I had unrealistic expectations of this team, then I would probably land up with a big, big problem. So I had to bridge the playing field. I had to level the playing field. And that's where I started my journey into multitasking. So I was everything. I would get up at, let's say, 8 o'clock in the morning and eventually sleep at 4 o'clock at night. And this happened for at least 7 months of my journey. I was the doctor, I was the intensivist, I was the man who went and arranged for funds. I was also the guy who brought in CSR. I was the guy who was handling with government officials. That time, central government officials used to keep coming and visiting us. So it was a multitasking thing, but it was a great journey and I learned quite a lot. I started teaching interns and various other people how to intubate because we didn't have the intensivists with us and there were very few coming through. So we taught physiotherapists, occupational therapists, we taught interns and everybody else how to start intubating. I ran these classes so that they would know if the time came, God forbid, push comes to shove, they would know how to intubate. They also say that a diamond is just a piece of charcoal and that handles stress exceptionally well. I don't know whether I did really well, but somewhere I believe that something within me changed during this entire journey. This was the state of the entire Shamiana which we built up as an ICU. And something within me told me, let's not start this. I'm not very happy. And the guys who set up this tent said this can stand any storm, any hurricane, and various other things. And y'all would know the two storms that came into Mumbai right in the beginning. And this is what really happened. Now, God forbid, if I had moved my patients here, this would have been in every newspaper because in the night of the storm, this place completely broke down. The tent blew up. This is a picture of me on this side of the screen where I had got 8 patients. And I remember speaking to the municipal commissioner that time. It was completely flooded outside NSCI. He said, Mufi, please move these patients to the next facility. I said, sir, it's flooded completely out. If all these patients are on high oxygen, if I move them, there's a very good chance we'll lose some of them. He said, what do you plan to do? So within a space in NSCI, we moved the oxygen. We connected overnight. Within the space of 2 hours, we connected with tubing's oxygen connectors, and we moved all these 8 patients inside, and we managed to tide the crisis. So I think it was a great journey. We didn't sleep the entire night in moving these patients, and we are proud to say that we didn't lose anybody at that point of time. So sometimes life throws you all these various things and you fall down, but I think the time is when you can get up and dust yourself up and say that I'm here to fight this challenge. And that's what you learn from champions. The other important thing and the pressure, like Ruju said, is that was my bed for 9 months. That was a couch in my clinic, which I slept. The rest of my team all stayed at NSCI. I would come back to my clinic and sleep there. A lot of my discussions with Mr. Thackeray, who now become a close friend, happened between 1 and 2 at night when we would think of ideas of how to do much, much more to save people. And then the Civ Scenics would call me between 2 to 4 to try and move some stranded patient at that point of time. But the biggest thing I think was something that I have to apologize to my wife is I was not there during the most tough parts of her pregnancy. And we had twins very soon after. During these kids are now pandemic kids, as we call them, pandemic twins. And my son, I could not come close to him. I would see few glimpses of him here and there. He would dress up in my jackets and my clothes to be the man of the house and entertain his mother and other people at home. And that was the only regret I had, that I really missed out on the good time that probably a lot of the fathers would have had with their kids. And I was out there because when I did this journey, I didn't know whether I'd come back. I frankly didn't know, because in March 2020, we didn't know whether we'd survive. I'd heard stories of doctors losing their lives and everything. And I was hoping within hopes that someday I would come back out to see my kids. And today, of course, it's a completely different story. So your only limit is you, I believe. And when I had all these challenges, I thought, how do I overcome it? So I started by going up to the municipal commissioner that time, Mr. Pardeshi, as well as the chief minister, and said that, sir, very soon we'll run out of all facilities in Nair, Sai, and KEM. You'll need to give me a Maidan or something big to set up a facility. And they all thought I was completely crazy. They thought that, they still said, chalo, isko try karne do. And they gave me NSCI. They gave me 5 days to set up NSCI. And from scratch, we set up NSCI, divided it into various facilities. And that turned out to be the genesis of setting up jumbo facilities all across India. And today, when we look back, I had to then set up an entire guideline. Then came BKC, then came NESCO, then came all the other Mulund and all the other facilities based on this kind of draft document that I had given to Mr. Sanjeev Jaiswal, who was that time AMC city and in charge of all the jumbo facilities in Mumbai city. So this is the roadmap on which we set up. We came up with a holding cell concept. You would remember in April and May that very few beds were available all across Mumbai. People who had all kinds of money still didn't get a bed because either you had to be COVID positive or COVID negative to be admitted to a hospital. So I said that I don't want people to die on the road. So I created an open concept in the sense that we kept separated beds and we kept oxygen cylinders, and we've taken in diamond merchants, we've taken in people who could buy our hospitals, didn't have a hospital bed. Overnight, we would keep them on oxygen, do the RT-PCR till their report came, and then they would find a place in a hospital if they became positive or negative. But we would save their life overnight, and that became the backbone of my funding, and CSR funding started coming in. And of course, much later, BMC came in and took over the project and then started funding it. I had to play with artificial intelligence. Well, X-ray is not the best modality to pick up early COVID, and I do admit to that. But at that point of time, how many people's CT scan could you do? In the early days, there were hardly any RT-PCR tests we had. So what I would do is I would do a plain X-ray. Then we would put it up on an artificial intelligence model, and they would grade these into high, medium, low. At night, I would sit and see the medium and the high grades and then move them out. We would not be allowed to do RT-PCR because there were hardly any RT-PCR tests available. But if we suspected that they were X-rays, we would completely move these people out. And that's how the first red zone of Mumbai, G South ward of Burli, started coming lower and lower in the ranks, and very soon was taken over by Dharavi and all as the number of positive cases moved. And this model of artificial intelligence, we set up a bus in which we kept an X-ray machine and started mass testing everybody. So though not the best modality, like I said, beggars can't be choosers. This is something that we thought would at least pick up 50% of the cases of COVID, and we started testing people and bringing them out. Then we thought of non-contact cubicles because, like I said, I had only 7 doctors. It was impossible for me to go out and 24 nurses for them to see 589 patients at NSCI Dome. So I said the patients need to come to me. And when someone is in this kind of white attire, it is very, very, very difficult for patients to recognize you. Patients feel intimidated. You are scared. You are sweating all the way. So I set up these non-contact cubicles where the patient would sit on the positive side. The air conditioning inside our non-contact cubicles was completely separate. So we just sat with an N95 mask, and patients could see us, they could talk to us through phones, and they would come and measure their pulse, BP, saturation, everything, take their medicines. And that's how we started bridging the gap between the number of healthcare professionals versus the number of patients that we had. We would test them out over here. And then I started doing in-bed remote monitoring. So for the lot of people who were very, very high risk, I would give them these wearable devices and monitor them with the doses from the bed and monitor their BP, their saturation, and then take in my zoom in cameras to do this. I would get on my phone. I would get all these indices from these patients, from the saturation to the sleep, to the BP, to the sugars if they had diabetes, and all this would be monitored by my doctors. And we would then be able to say which patient is serious and which patient is not. So a lot of these markers came into handy. Another thing was this setup of oxygen. So when I first set up and said that I need 70 to 80 liters of oxygen per minute, the engineers in BMC told me that I had miscalculated, and they told the municipal commissioner, sir, ये डॉक्टर ने कुछ गलत किया है. इतना ऑक्सीजन हमने नायर साइन के में पूछा है, वो खाली कहते हैं कि वेंटिलेटर के लिए भी 5-6 लीटर ऑक्सीजन लगती है. So I said I need jumbo cylinders, and they luckily trusted me, and that's how we got these jumbo cylinders. These were 1.3 metric cube jumbo cylinders, and we set these up. And this actually was why we didn't see dead bodies all across the place. We didn't see too many numbers of people dying, despite the largest numbers coming out of Maharashtra during the second wave, because we had supplemental oxygen, which we had, and all jumbo facilities had set this up after that. And how this has saved us, only time has told us. I had lots of people trolling me on social media saying, this guy thinks he's some expert and he's setting up all this, he's just spending money. We had opposition who came in and said, BMC is spending money, but today it's a thing of the past, and everyone thinks that that was the idea that probably cancer patients. Well, I had my friends from Tata who came and told me, Mufi, will you take some cancer patients? Because nobody's ready to take us. In Tata, we are completely up to our gills, and there's nobody ready to take us, take cancer patients. And we had these patients coming from all across India. So we were the first ones to accept, and we created a small niche area for cancer patients. The Tata team would come and manage them. We had them on Ryle's tube after cancer surgeries and various other things. So we treated cancer patients as well. We treated full-term pregnant ladies. We treated all stages, because Neeta Varthi was with us. And that's how we managed to take pregnant ladies. We managed to take cancer patients and various other things. And then NSCI Dome, as all of y'all would know, is a rock stadium. There was no other place but to set up these ICUs, because I needed ICUs. If I had a serious patient, I could not keep moving them to Nayar KEM Sion. So I set up ICUs in containers. Now, how do I prevent my staff from getting infected? I set up negative isolation in these containers, and this became the genesis of the first remotely monitored ICUs. These were all the negative burners, the virus burners that we set up. And then we had remote monitoring. So you had this kind of a war room kind of setup, and the doctors would sit here and monitor these patients remotely. These are the kind of monitors we had. And today, I am proud to say that we've got a 100-bedded ICU, all thanks to Reliance, which we've set up at NCI. It's the best equipped ICU today in a jumbo facility. We are up and ready if a third wave were to hit us. We've got all these remote monitoring. We've got the latest devices, and I'm thankful to them for helping me support this second. The other thing is humility. At no point of time, being a surgeon, I realized that it takes a mere seconds to come from hero to zero. And so at no point of time did you think that you were God and you knew everything about COVID. The more you thought you knew about COVID, the lesser you knew. And that's what brought me down to this saying, because I didn't do this for the money. Like I told you, for 9 months, I didn't earn a single rupee. Theodore Bilroth's this saying, the pleasure of a physician is little. And at that point of time, luckily, nobody knew who the physician was treating, because we all in white carbs. Very soon, because of the news, people got to know me. The gratitude of patients is rare. And I think all of us as doctors will live with this one saying. And even rarer is a material reward. But these things never deter the student who feels the call within him. And like I told you, the calling was within me to go out and help my city, because I love my Mumbai. And I thought this was my opportunity to be counted. Well, I did get some degree of praise. I got some of the topmost journalists in India to cover me. A lot of media covered NSCI Dome, and it became a standalone facility. We had central teams who came and said that, please give us a model. I did speak to the LG and the Health Minister of Delhi to recommend how this model ran. The Honorable Home Minister then employed these cameras that we use in these facilities for the facilities in Delhi. And so a lot of this was used. And I got a lot of political patronage. I must thank Aditya and the CM and Mr. Pawar for their continuous political patronage, for getting this facility up and running, and whatever after a certain point we needed, we got them all. We did get our share of awards, and I'm really thankful for these awards, but that is not the reason why we did this. So I would like to leave you with just this one motto, which I have put up in my clinic. If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat these two imposters just the same, if you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings without losing the common touch, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. So every time I feel very elated with these awards, I come crash landing back when I read this. And that's what kept me sane through this whole thing. I'm just so thankful to all these people for helping me out, especially these young nurses, young doctors, without whom I probably wouldn't have been speaking to you. A special mention to Aditya, because he's now become a close friend, but that time he was a politician I knew little about and kind of helped me. And thank you to my wife, and my two twins for having not needed my help at that point of time. And thank you to all the various donors who came out and were kind enough. Thank you to all the patients who trusted me through this journey. Thank you, Ruju, and thank you all for patient listening.
Wow, Mufi, I think that was so nice and enlightening to be up close and personal about the entire journey. We always knew Mufi as someone who just goes there and takes charge. So let me bring this question to you. As a leader, do you think it's sufficient to take charge? I think it's easy for a passionate person like you to really get into the swing of things. But do you think it's sufficient to take charge? And what decides that how does a leader take charge of situations?
I think if you are a leader, you are the one who has to take charge, especially when the chips are down, right? When there is credit, that's the time the leader should be the last guy to take credit. His team should be taking the credit. And that's what I would always run away the moment some newspaper would come and I would try to push my team in front. But when the chips were down, like the time of the hurricane, like the time when things were not working, if I had to intubate, I would rush in myself. Like, for example, when my wife went into labor, she called me some 20 times. And I couldn't take a phone because I had rushed in to intubate a patient at that point of time. It was eventually Neeta's assistant who drove her to the hospital at that point of time. So that's something that I think as a leader, when the chips are down, when the going is really tough, that's when leaders stand out. They have to put their hand up and say, I am here to take the blame for everything. Like I told them, if you can't save one person in these new ICUs that I've thought of or set up, I will take all the blame for it. But if we save one life, remember that this patient wouldn't have been alive, but for you. So think of it that way. Put the entire blame onto me. Say this crazy guy made us do these things. But luckily today, that turned out to be really good. And we could save so many lives. So I think as a leader, take the onus when the chips are down. That's what I believe.
So should I say that it's not, if I infer from this, that it's not sufficient to take charge, but it is important at that point then to lead by example and to also try and focus yourself and tell your team to focus on what is achievable at hand. Would that be a correct conclusion from what you've said?
I think you have to be part of the team. No leader can be aloof from the team. Because if he, like I told you, for the first 10 hours, I would go in the PPE myself. A 20-something-year-old nurse, she cannot be motivated until she sees the boss himself next to her. I could have given orders from outside and that would have never motivated her. But she saw that after 8 hours, when she could not go to the washroom, she had not eaten anything, she had not drunk anything, no water, nothing. She went back and I was still there. So she said, I can't make an excuse to this guy because he's still inside. He's crazy, but that's it. I think that is one thing that is important, that you should be part of your team. And the other thing, Ruju, what you correctly said is that you should take your team along, because you have to know their skill sets, what they have and what they don't have. Make their mediocrity look very good. Like a physiotherapist and an occupational therapist eventually look like a fantastic doctor who saves so many lives, right? So that is what you should know their shortcomings and their downfalls, but increase and enhance their good qualities. And that's what you should give them that confidence that they can go out and achieve much, much more than they are capable of.
So from what you've just said, again, I think I would infer that a leader not only knows the potential, not only knows the lack of potential, but he also is there and holds their hand and takes them through till they achieve success. So I think for a leader, it's important to not just be a guide or a finger pointer, but to be there with them and see them through. You have to start from babysitting. You have to then leave them a little alone and then encourage them also. And that's how they perform. I mean, would that be correct if I infer that from what you said?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that no leader worth his while would ever leave his pupil or the wards alone at all. I think you learn this from the army, that the captain is the first guy to take the bullet on his chest. I think that's the same thing. I think what gave the parents the courage when I asked them their permission to use their children for this journey was that there was Dr. Lakdawala who said that if there is someone who will get the virus first, it will be him. And that's what guaranteed them. So,
yeah. So Dr. Dhiren Bhai, who is our POSI president and very, very motivated. I mean, he was a leader to us in terms of the purpose that he gave us in POSI and this beautiful concept of leadership that we came through. So I'd like now Dr. Dhiren Bhai to ask you some questions.
Initially, when you started describing and talking about the COVID thing, I thought that your topic is about the leadership and you are speaking on something else. But as you went through the whole journey of your 9 months endeavor, I realized that this was the classic example of leadership. So like leaders, particularly, they are not actually given a task, but actually you found out that this is where you can really work and you can do something worthwhile. And this was really a classic example, each challenge where like how you converted that into the opportunity was really a learning lesson for us. Now, I just would like to ask you about the role of communication in the leadership. So yeah, you have on one side before COVID, you are a very successful private practitioner. And here you are working more on the philanthropy. So how that interaction or the communication with your team differs? Because at one point you were the boss, you are going to pay them. Here they are doing a service on a charity basis or on a humanitarian ground. So how the communication differs in both the situations?
So when you do something for passion and when you do something for the calling within, I think then you never look at the number of hours that you're working, right? And that is luckily, I was very, very blessed to have this entire team. And none of them were paid in the beginning. Later, when BMC came in, yes, they were paid, and they're being continued to pay even to this day. With Reliance coming in, they've been given COVID allowance as well, which is almost double the pay that they get. So I think I'm very, very happy that they're getting what they deserve today. But at that point of time, sir, you are quite correct. The joy about this whole COVID fight was that nobody knew Dr. Lakdawala. Right? There was this guy in white scrubs who was coming and actually going there. And a little part that I didn't tell you is that, which Ruju will tell you, I grew up in Dongri. I grew up very, very close to Mr. Ibrahim and in the next lane there. And I had to use some filmy dialogues. When we started the NSCI dome, the first day when we shifted people from Podar to here, 160 patients were shifted. Now, at that point of time, the ACs were not yet on and the bathrooms are not yet opened, and we moved them. And a central team came, so we didn't have time to distribute all these people. So there was mutiny within. Because most of them were slum people, there was mutiny, and they said we'll break down everything and hame wapas Podar shift kar do. So I actually, myself and the municipal commissioner, we walked in. He walked in and said, I am Sharad Ukde. I am the assistant municipal commissioner, G South. Kai pahiजे तुम्हाला मला सांगा. So they all said आम्हाला परत जायचंय COVID. I mean पोदारला परत जायचंय. So he said okay पाठवतोय. चला buses बाहेर ठेवा आणि सगळ्यांना पाठवा. That would have been the end of my journey. That would have been the end of NSCI dome. So I said, sir, एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर हो, मैं डॉक्टर, मैं अंदर जाके बात करूँ, इससे डॉक्टर कोई फायदा नहीं है, इन लोग को आपकी कदर नहीं है, आप फैमिली छोड़ के आए हो इनके लिए ये। So I went in and I was surrounded. So I was surrounded by 160 people, and the nurses were literally trembling, and they were, because they didn't have PPEs. I was the only guy in PPE that time, and it was quite funny because I went and said, "Iska leader kaun hai? Aapki team se leader kaun?" So one guy said, "Haan, main hu." And one old lady actually came and abused me. She said, "Maji shive tula lagel. Okay, if something happens to me, you are the person responsible." So I had to ignore all that, right? And I said, "Kali, ये इधर गुंडा सिर्फ एक ही है और मैं हूँ, तुम नहीं हो। तो अगर आपको जाना है तो मैं छोड़ के जाऊंगा, कोई आएगा नहीं डॉक्टर, आप लोग सब मरोगे." Then I went to each and every bed and I spoke to them. I said, "I promise you this will be the best facility in Mumbai. Please don't go. Give me just one night." Out of that, 100 people didn't go, 60 went, and all those 60 were moved. The next day, these people sent videos because we played yoga. We gave messages from film stars. There was AC there. There was music there. And every morning we would do yoga sessions and 4 big TVs, which we had set up. And they sent all these video clips to those 60 who had moved. So we moved 59 of them. The leader didn't move, sir. Leader begged through every political leader he knew of that please move me back to NSCI, but the municipal commissioner refused to move him. At one point, I relented. I said, "Sir, aane do." He said, "Nahi." Finally, he said, "Sir, ye suicide kar dega." And that day, he turned negative because we needed negative to send them out, and we managed to send him. So there are some journeys, I think sometimes you have to take these tough calls. You have to behave what you are not in your true inherent personality. But that's what I behave. I was not Dr. Lakdawala. I can't relate this to some people.
So then, Mufi, I think what I would infer from this is, as a leader, that it's important to connect to even the ground, and it is important to be able to make your point firmly and assertively without being aggressive. When the going gets tough, the tough do get going. But even when you're, even when you're tough, I think it's important to keep that line that you never come across as overbearing, but you just stay firmly grounded and say, "I'm not doing this, take it or leave it." So I think it's very important how a leader communicates his firmness at such tough times. There's one more thing, I think, Mufi, what I wanted to ask you. When you have to make things happen, what does a leader really try? Does he try first to reach out? Does he try to actually mobilize his own resources? Or does he try really to organize things if he has to make things happen?
I think every leader should have a methodical plan. He should have various options. It should not be only option one. Because if option one fails, option two has to be ready. In the back of his mind, he has to have that option ready, whether he shares it with his team or not, but in his own mind, he should have that ready. And he should back his resources. So he should know his strengths, he should know his weaknesses, because that's the only way he'll reach his goal. And he should take it like a journey. I think the destination should be he should enjoy the entire journey. If you stop enjoying the journey, then I think then it always becomes a bore. If I would have stopped enjoying going out and reaching out to COVID patients, then it would have become a complete bore. I was enjoying every single moment. I never grumbled if I got 4 hours of sleep that night, but that was it. I mean, I think the best thing about that is that go out and enjoy your journey. Whilst you're looking to achieve your goals, as a leader, make sure that every part of your team, every member of your team enjoys that journey. They will have their good days, they will have their bad days. So when they have their bad days, take them on the side, give them a pat on the back and say, "You are my only soldier, I'm dependent only on you." When they perform something which you don't want them to do, it is your leader's job to pull them on the side and also tell them something that is they might not want to hear, but you have to do it because, like Steve Jobs said, if you want to sell ice creams, you should go out and become an ice cream vendor, not a leader.
Yeah, Chinmay has something to ask you before we wind up with one last question from me.
Yeah,
Mufi, you had a wonderful, rich experience of leadership. So now, how you are going to take this experience to your original practice? Because ultimately now you will be starting your practice, or you must have started your original practice of GI disorders or the obesity surgery. So how this vast experience will help you in your original practice?
So it's changed me as a person. It's completely changed my personality as a person. And what I've realized is now is the time for technology. Technology is the only way we can bridge the gap between rural healthcare and urban healthcare. So right now, I am working very, very closely with the government to try and create a digital tool to try and bridge this gap, sir. We are trying to reach, I don't know whether I'll ever be successful, but we are trying very, very hard to create something like a digital stamp for every individual. So let's say someone from a village, today if they come to us, they don't know their history. Someone else, some young kid comes with them, they say, dadala, blood pressure hai, kiva khokla hai, kiva diabetes hai, but they don't know because they're too old to remember. So we are trying to create a digital imprint of all these people. So every time they come with a QR code or with a fingerprint or something, anytime they come, they will have their signature, which will carry their entire history of their life in medicine, whichever hospital they go. And we are trying this as a pilot project in some of the slums and seeing if it works. We are also trying, like you will see some of the drones that have been used now to prevent malaria and dengue. So these are some of the technological advances that I'm working with the BMC to use. We'll try and use a lot of artificial intelligence in trying to know which way we will go so that the next time a pandemic of this sort hits us, we would be ready with that.
Wow, that's, I mean, absolutely super amazing to know the kind of stuff that technology can do. Well, my question was more related, coming back to leadership communication, especially because you worked in the pandemic and had all your challenges which were turned into opportunities. How does one communicate bad news? So I think the human angle, despite all this communication and all, always remains there. And how should a leader go around communicating bad news?
I think just be honest. Be honest as far, and I've known this in my surgical practice, I've known this always. If you're honest, people understand. The moment you try and lie about something, you'll have to keep lying one after the other. And eventually, when the truth comes out, you look like a complete buffoon. If you are honest, I know people don't like listening to honesty quite often. Quite often, we have patients who don't do well despite the best of efforts that we've put in. And that's the time to go out, and if you made a mistake, you probably don't have to go out and tell them you made a mistake, but in some way communicate that, yes, this has happened because of the surgery. Admit to that fact. I think then the rest will, because sometimes you'll realize that your opponents are waiting for this one gap, because if you tell them, nahi, surgery ke karan se hua hi nahi hai, ye kuch bhi galat nahi hai, and then they go to somebody else, he'll say, acha, ye kisne surgery ki? And that's it. They will lose complete faith in you. Whereas you say, you are human. All of us are prone to making mistakes. Let's hope we make less of them. But I think be honest as far as possible. Take the onus and responsibility. If you're honest, I think little can go wrong.
But I mean, it's become especially more important in times when the passions are high and during a pandemic. So what would be the mantra for a leader? Should you break bad news gently? Should you break it in private? Or should you always have one key person with you when you're breaking private news? I mean, bad news, sorry.
I think you should have people around with you today, at least for the youngsters, they should have people around, because emotions are running high and people will love to blame you and not the politicians around for everything that has gone wrong, at least in COVID. If they don't get oxygen, doctors the easiest and best person to blame. Their family doesn't survive even despite the fact that they didn't get that family member to the hospital early enough. You are the only one who's going to bear the brunt and blame for it. But I think eventually we've seen a lot of these videos floating around where people are screaming, shouting, everything. They eventually will learn. So protect yourself first. I would say, yes, you should have people around. Protect yourself and document everything. In today's day and age, document everything. Every effort you've made, document it. You are not God. You, like I put up in the slide, a Oedipus complex should never come to you. You are never going to be God. So you can only try your best. And once you've tried your best, that's it. I mean, there's nothing better. I mean, there was nobody ready to put their hand up and try to save a COVID patient. His family members were running away from him. So, I mean, they've got no excuse against you. Who's volunteered to stay away from family, risked his own life to come out and save. And that's why I do believe firmly that I think the governments that are there currently need to recognize the effort that doctors have put in during this pandemic. Had it not been for this pandemic, we would have lost many, many more lives. Had it not been for the doctors of India, I think they've done brilliantly. I think every doctor in India, and that's why I'm very, very proud to be part of this fraternity, that everyone, irrespective of whether they're young, old, in any which way, they've put their hands up and said, okay, I will try and help and decrease the morbidity and mortality.
Wow, I think splendid thoughts and very honest, candid discussions. I think we are already running out of time. The interaction has been so engaging, and we could probably go on all night with as many questions as your journey has been. But like they say, all good things have to come to an end. So on behalf of the Indian Academy of Cerebral Palsy, the IOA, the Indian Orthopedic Association, and the Pediatric Orthopedic Society of India, and personally from Dhiren Bhai and me, I think we have learned a lot. What we have learned, I think, from both the leadership interactions is that if a man or a woman can dream it, he can achieve it. If a man or a woman really sets out to do something and does what it takes to make the change and starts living the change, I think both the leaders today have been perfect examples of living and being the change themselves. Then slowly and gradually, from where the universe conspires, or maybe it's just the flow that nature brings in, things do change for the better. And I think all of us here are there to make that positive change. And let's hope what we've learned from these leaders is imbibed by our audience and all of us in our journeys forwards. And with this wish, I will wish all of y'all safe, to stay safe, to take care of yourselves. And thank you very, very much, Mufi, for joining us.
Thank you.
Keep doing the good work. We are all totally, totally proud of you.
Thank you.
Chakarakacha.
Mark. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mufi. It was
Thank you, Dhiren Bhai. Thank you, Mufi. Pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank
And
you.
we thank our audience. I think we've already run out of time. We will have interaction with the Arvinda Institute or many more eye openers much later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Ashok, thank you. Bye. Forgot to thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thanks.